Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today I am going to take you on another fun video. This video takes us to north of Logan in Cache Valley, to a really beautiful little valley where I met with Scott. Now, Scott is an artist and a landscape designer, and he loves to utilize rock in his landscape designs, and he does it very artistically. He uses both sides of his brain, the science side and the artistic side, to beautiful effects. Now, he not only uses rocks as art in the landscape, but he creates other artistic creations on grand scales, as you can see in these next few pictures. So without further ado, let's take you to the interview I did with Scott and show you what he's done with some rocks in one of his landscape designs.
My name is Scott Dilatush. I come from back east. I lived in Virginia most of my life. I did a lot of fancy landscaping back there on the coast. And I studied salt-tolerant plants. And luckily, salt-tolerant plants usually are very drought-tolerant. So I knew a lot of the drought-tolerant plants when I moved to Utah back in 2015. And I'm using quite a few of those same plants that I used back east in the sand dunes. I'm using them here. I incorporate sand of all sizes. I must have the sand for the drought-tolerant plants. They all do so much better when they have the sand in the mix. So I'm well known for making sandy soil mixes, and I swear by that. In this job you see here, I use two different types of sand. No, wait, I'm sorry, three types of sand. So I use sand from a pit called Pisgah. Pisgah sand has a sharp sand. I get 1/2 inch minus. It's very versatile. It's excellent for use under flagstones to hold the stones in place. Also under any large stones, not just flagstones. So when I place rows of rocks down in terrace beds like this, I have about 3 inches, a layer of about 3 inches deep and a little wider than the size of the rock. And it makes excellent bedding. And with my giant trowel, hand shovel, I shift the sand to fit the shape of the bottom of the rock. So it's very stable. Like, say if the bottom of the rock was concave, I tuck a mound of the sand in where that concave part of the rock is, so it doesn't move around when I'm all done fitting the rocks together. And I love to fit rocks together tightly. It makes happy homes for insects, which then brings in froggies. In fact, just a week after I finished most of the rock work, there was a nice slippery little froggy, camouflaged the same color as one of the beige rocks. He's already eaten some of the ants that moved in.
I love it. So you're bringing in the wildlife.
I'm bringing in, yeah. Yeah, at one point I was thinking about calling myself Father Nature. I thought that was a clever name, but come to find out it's very generic. There's probably 1,000 Father Natures around the United States. So the most important thing to mention is before I put one rock down, I said to myself, hey, you studied art for a long time, and all of your teachers taught you about false perspective. Why not use false perspective here and make it look like it's a lot bigger than it really is? So
that looks huge.
So it's only like 33 feet long, I think, but I tried to make it look more like 40 feet long. The way you do it is you start with a wider bed of rock, a wider creek bed, and then you very gradually narrow down to a real skinny bed, a skinny rock bed at the end. And it can fool your eye. So it even fools mine. So I'm happy with that. And then another trick, which I didn't do enough of, but I should have, and that is the rocks on the sides of the creek. If it wasn't such a rush job, I would have spent more time choosing the smaller rocks and gradually moving up to larger rocks as you come out where we are right here. But there are some huge rocks that I did place in the beginning for that effect, but I didn't really go through with it all as much as I could have.
Can I walk through the riverbed a little bit? So I love your steps. Tell us a little bit about the steps as we go into the river.
All right, what's real interesting is there's a real small operation that sells, it's a quarry, that sells boulders and So I spent a lot of time hand picking them out. And they're not all the larger rocks that you see around here, but most of them. And here are some that I found, and I'm sure I shouted when I found them. I was happy to find them.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
But when you find a heavy rock, this is about 120 pounds, maybe 150 pounder. It's almost perfectly flat on this side. The other side on the bottom is not perfectly flat. It's close, but not safe enough to walk on. So they always get inverted. So the smoother side is up. Sometimes the bottom and the top are equally good for walking on, but one side is much prettier than the other. Of course, that's the side. Gotta get that on top. Oh yeah, and then I try to use a variety of shapes and the stepstones instead of the same old shape everywhere.
So I love how you've used all different sizes of rocks.
Yeah, in nature, if you notice, carefully observe when you're walking along a creek bed where there are pebbles, they are all different sizes. So, and then in the future, I'll be adding more. If you notice, the predominant color here is about a lavender.
Yeah.
Lavender or white. So I'm going to be purposely looking for greens and pinks, reds and oranges, peaches to add to this. Over the years, I'll be sneaking in a few rocks here and there. And I'll put the smaller ones down at the end for the, exaggerating the false perspective. I'm going to move some of these bigger ones up to the front, by the way. So like these, I'm going to take them out of here and move them up to the front to help that false perspective look happen better.
You're engineering it, but you're thinking of it with your artistic brain too.
Yep, and then here's a snag. I put a snaky looking piece in there. Somebody stepped on it and broke the head off, of course. Now here is something I need to talk about. So the biggest mistake with making a creek bed, I noticed, is, if you don't have any rocks to help erosion to slow down, slow down the erosion. Slowing down the erosion is very important. I'm going to choose ground cover plants that look like moss. I'm going to use things like soapwort, and there's so many dianthus plants that are cushiony, very, very short height-wise, but they spread slowly and fill in these crevices, nooks and crannies where there's soil. Here and there I missed soil. I noticed I missed a spot. I gotta make a homemade funnel out of cardboard and dump some soil into that tiny crevice right there.
That's a good idea. I hadn't thought about that because I was wondering how people get the soil into the crevices without making a huge mess of everything.
I tried so many ways, and some of them were kind of dumb, really, to be honest, but I perfected it over the years. Yeah, funnel. You can make a funnel out of thick paper as well. Yeah. Everything's dollar store has awesome poster paper for making funnels. A buck for 2 giant pieces. But so I'll be shopping at specialty nurseries. Willard Bay Gardens is a really good choice.
Very great place.
Oh yeah, and then Garden Gateway, Anderson's, Seed, and Logan. I'll be going to several places. I'm never satisfied with one nursery when I need specialty plants like this to fill in the cracks and crevices. And I would like to imitate how when you're walking up a mountain, like say you're up 10,000 feet high, and you see these little perennial and annuals growing in the cracks and crevices of the giant boulders that are as big as a house up there. That look, I'm going to try to imitate as much as I can. And I'm going to try to make it so I have spring bloomers, summer bloomers, and fall bloomers. And I've got to be careful not to have too many of each in one area. I've got to make sure they're mingled all around.
It's natural, yeah.
Well, so that when you're walking through here or looking down the creek bed, any time of the year except for winter, you'll see, well, actually in the winter, there'll be evergreen foliage. The dianthus that I'm going to choose will be evergreen.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
So the best dianthus I know of for filling in the quickest in the larger cracks and crevices, that would be Dianthus gratianapolitanus. That's the shortest name of the longest name, sorry.
Yeah, the longest name for the shortest
So
dianthus.
yeah, that's what I meant to say. So anyway, yeah. And it's got a pretty good silvery sheen to the foliage. It's bright and cheerful. It's not even blooming.
So you really carefully think about the whole artistic presentation, plants, rocks.
Well, yeah, and if I mess up, I can always take note as to how I messed up, and fix it with it, like, you know, just like you rearrange the furniture in your living room.
Yeah.
Fix it so that the furniture looks right.
I love it. Now there was one other thing you were showing me a little bit earlier about how you keep the frost, because we're here in Cache Valley.
Yeah.
And frost heaving is a huge issue. You were showing me how you stop that.
So heaving. Okay. So heaving occurs, first of all, heaving is the movement of soil in the winter when it freezes. So you say you have a rain right before our first freeze. So the soil is sopping wet. And just like an ice cube in an ice cube tray, the ice cube rises, right? Okay, same with soil. It rises up vertically. And if this soil were to freeze and I did not have my gravel protection, which I'll show you, if I didn't have that layer of gravel vertically laid there to separate the big rocks from the soil, well, the soil would rise up above this fella, tip him up. This backside would tip up in the air from that frozen water in the soil, and this guy would slide like a sliding board right off the wall and crash onto the driveway. And many of the rocks would fall out. And if a bottom rock moved around, all the rocks on top of them could tumble out with it. So it's a major disaster for some people that don't have the experience. They have thousands of dollars worth of extra work to do.
So how'd you solve it?
Okay, so underneath these small rocks here, which are here to hide the gravel, because I think the gravel is kind of plain looking, and these are exciting looking. I mean, look at those two color pieces, for example, and polka dotted rocks and striped rocks. Anyways, so this gravel goes all the way down there.
So it's not soil that's going to freeze, it's gravel that's going to drain.
Gravel that's going to drain. So the water, you can water the heck out of this flower bed right before our first freeze, and all the water goes way down below. And so, yeah, none of these rocks are going to move around from the soil freezing. See?
I like that. So you have to think about things like
Oh, you better think about those things. Yep. Oh, hey, we got puddling. We got puddling with butterflies.
that. Oh, look how pretty.
Yeah. So when a whole bunch of butterflies are clustered together on the ground, and they're excited looking, they're flapping their wings and stuff, they're puddling. They're eating minerals out of the rock dust that's down there. I brought in rock dust as part of the soil.
So you brought in something that they need. Those are really pretty ones.
Oh, that's one of the major ways to attract butterflies, and hardly anybody knows about it. Most everybody just buys nectar plants, and they don't think about the host plants for their cocoons and stuff. But more than that, the puddlers, if you want to see a lot of butterflies, the puddling, bringing in that activity is real important. So this material, again, this versatile stuff I was telling you about, Pisca, usually has it. They ran out. So the vein they have now has a whole bunch of orange clay in it. So you have half orange clay, half this kind of stuff. Not as good. But when they get back to the gray vein, pure gray vein again, you can use that to make mud puddles. So you pack it, you see. You pack it. Or you could actually lay down like 10 mil black plastic, sheet plastic, and make a shallow mud puddle out of that first, and then hide the plastic with that. And
that's what I think I need to do in my yard.
Oh yeah, please. And you'll have the puddling like that right there. And the orange rocks and the red rocks, if that's chat, will be loaded with iron. And there used to be, so they're not scattering too far. Now this job, of course, is not finished. As you can see, a lot of gravel still showing. I have to cover with the little rocks. And down in the pit, this is a sunken garden, to be better with terminology. But this sunken garden will be coated on the bottom with the fanciest gravel you ever could possibly see. it's going to have all these different hot colors going on and translucent, so they glow in the late afternoon sun.
I love it.
Oh, they're going to look like little pieces of jewelry everywhere, like garnets and stuff. And they charge a bundle for it, but it's worth it for the looks, you know. Yep. So that's good. That's like the dessert, you know, sort of like icing on the cake kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and here you can definitely see on your steps that you have, like you were talking about, you have the rose color, then you have the green and the tan.
Right.
And
so
I
I purposely try in many spots in every rock garden I make. I have a red or pink rock next to a green rock. Yeah. And it's Christmas colors. And you don't have to have perfect primary colors going. Anything close to red, anything close to green works really well. It pops. It really pops well when you do that. Also, purple rocks next to yellow rocks, or purple next to orange, also works.
Well, speaking of blue and orange, look, over here you've got your blue fescue and your orange coneflowers.
Orange coneflowers.
Along with a little slightly different color of blue sedum.
Yeah, let's see which cultivar this is. I don't know. They have so many cultivars. It's an awfully bright, silvery blue one. Yeah. Boulder blue.
Boulder blue. That's a really nice one.
It is a nice one. Yep.
And I love the color contrasts here. And then just that pop of yellow, and then there's a little bit of pink. It's just...
So the sedum is sedum reflexum. I'm not sure which cultivar it is, but I always try to get the bluest one, or a silver blue. And so you have related colors near each other, but the leaves are completely different.
Well, it makes the whole thing just really just pleasing and relaxing.
Yeah. And another kind of a contrast that you want to shoot for in the landscape, it really works, and I've been doing this now for like 50 years. So, but what really works is when you have rough textures next to shiny, glaucous leaves.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. So the rougher rocks like this, so a black or dark gray, rough textured volcanic rock with lots of air bubbles in it, right?
Yeah.
So right next to it, a super shiny, light colored flower. Okay. Instead of a flat color on the flower, shiny. It's like ice plant, for example.
Okay, yeah. Oh wow, I'll bet that'd be gorgeous.
Oh, ice plant looks amazing. So now the thing is, the ice plants can bloom half a year for you, where you live. Here, maybe 4 months here, 5 maybe, 5. Pushing it at 5 months. Back east, where I come from, it was 8 or 9 months of bloom from the Delosperma cooperi. Right. And that's the longest blooming one I know of. But anyway, those flowers are mauve, you know, right between pink and purple. Yeah. So they're really extra nice next to mustard colored rough rocks. Oh yeah. Or orange lava rocks. They look real good with them. Even black lava rocks are great for showing off those flowers. So staggering, instead of having a straight line, because in nature you never have a straight line row.
You have two right there. Those look like they might be daylilies. What are those on the end?
Oh, so hold on. You know, I can't remember what these are. Oh, coreopsis.
Yeah, landscape
coreopsis.
So you've got your two coreopsis, then you've got a drift of grasses.
Well, here's a mystery coreopsis. So a lot of nurseries do this. They don't mean to. They're not torturing me on purpose. But they throw in one that's the wrong type, the wrong cultivar. Yeah. I'll live with it. I'll survive.
It's going to be a nice end cap.
Okay.
It just puts a stopping point before the end of your,
Now, in the very end, when I'm all done, there's not going to be any of this metal showing. Nobody's going to see any metal unless you really look for it. And the same with the cloth, the vertical landscape fabric, which is one of the longest lasting on the market that I bought. Yeah. So up at the top we have a sand cherry. That's the reddish purple leaf.
Where it has plenty of room to get to its full size and its and the color.
Luckily they grafted the Sargentii crabapple onto a long stalk something or other. Yeah. Good rootstock there. So it'll be a tall, like a flying saucer shaped type of deal, floating above the sand cherry and floating above the mountain lion and her cubs.
they're going to have a place to kind of nestle into a little bit in a few years, couple of years.
Yeah, they probably have plenty to eat out here too.
Yeah.
Those mountain lions. So here's that double culvert pipe, and it's almost 4 foot in diameter, inside diameter. Isn't that something? I got them. $100 for both of them. Ooh!
Woohoo!
I love finding a good deal.
Yeah.
But they're ancient. They're ancient culvert pipes, but they're sturdily made. They've got metal framework, so they're going to hold up. Anyway, I don't want anybody to see the concrete, okay, on the outside. The inside, I'm going to paint the same color as the rocks, I think, if I get my way. So there's glue for everything today. If you go to a site called thistothat.com, they'll have the modern high-tech version of whatever glue works the best for gluing whatever to whatever. So I always look for rock work or masonry work. Yeah. What glue do they recommend these days as the best one? That's how I glue my rocks. And I'm going to have to use some kind of a way to hold the rocks in place once they're glued, right? Or I can use teeny weeny little pebbles, and then they'll stay put. The glue is very gloppy, so it's super thick. So that's going to be fun.
That's going to be
and again, I want to use different sizes. So I'll have skip stones that are light. They'll stay up easier. I'll have like more rounder ones and football shape, different sizes, and of course all different colors that go with these colors already.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I think when the interior is painted, say buff, orange, tan, something like that, that should help to hide the concrete look. Yeah. Plus, the paint will be flat. Yeah. Flat paint, not glossy or semi-gloss.
So I love that you let me come see this. This is absolutely gorgeous.
Well, I'm real happy that you came. You're a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is fun. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. If you have, please like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.